once they are onboarded, we want to keep engaging the employee to understand exactly how things are going. Are they engaged with their work? Are they challenged, not feeling overwhelmed? So every quarter, employees receive a satisfaction survey with personalized questions depending on their remote or in-person status. This workflow ties into the HR systems I use. So in my case, it'll pull the employee's name and other information from Paylocity, and that'll populate into the survey, allowing a more personalized touch. So with a consistent flow of feedback, HR uses Alchemer to analyze the data and recommend company-wide changes to the leadership team. Plus, we monitor how these changes impact turnover and general satisfaction amongst our employees.
After you onboard that employee, you mentioned a quarterly engagement survey that goes out. What are the challenges you're trying to push back on by sending that employee engagement survey?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jamie. We're thinking about several things when we send out our employee engagement surveys. One being high employee turnover and low employee satisfaction, which Kathy touched on a little bit. Essentially, losing employees is costly and time-consuming problem for HR teams everywhere. Low employee satisfaction impacts company morale, and it's a key indicator of impending employee turnover. Second, not knowing how employees feel at work. Consistently gauging changes in employee satisfaction quarter over quarter is challenging in the absence of data. So this makes it difficult to understand the impact of business decisions, policies, benefits changes, anything like that. And thirdly, being unable to understand and meet the needs of different population groups. Some of our employees work in person and some are remote. These employees have varying needs, and without targeted feedback from each group, it's extremely difficult to adapt and meet their different needs. So to address these challenges, we created an employee satisfaction workflow. So every quarter, employees receive a satisfaction survey that has personalized questions depending on their remote or in-person status. We monitor how employee satisfaction changes over time, and we make recommendations to our leadership team based on these surveys.
That's great that we're able to vary that based on, the workplace has changed so much since the pandemic, and it's great that we can do that automatically. That's very cool. Kathy, can you show us how these quarterly engagement surveys differ from the 30, 60, 90-day workflows you showed us before?
Sure thing. I'll go ahead and share my screen again. All right, so what I have set up here is a quarterly employee engagement workflow. And so what you're starting with is essentially what we call a scheduled initiator. So I'm going to go ahead and show what that setup process looks like. There's a lot of flexibility for kind of those repetitive processes that you need to do on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis. So in this instance, I'm going to go ahead and set it up so that it will run the workflow every 3 months, and then I can have it start whenever I want. So let's have it start at the beginning of next quarter, April 1st, and it will keep running until the date that I specify. All right, so then I'm all set up with my scheduled initiator, and I have as my first step here a survey that goes out to the employee. Again, this can be customized with the employee's name to really give that personalized experience. Here I'm going to open up the survey so we can see kind of some of the example questions that you might add to your survey. You can definitely make this as short or as long as you'd like it to be. And you can also build in survey logic, like Bryn mentioned. If, for example, you have employees that are both in office and remote, obviously it wouldn't make sense to ask a remote employee something like, how would you rate the in-office facilities? So you can choose to show or hide this question based on what type of employee that you're sending this out to. So back to the workflow. After you collect this quarterly employee satisfaction survey, you can then make sure that if, for example, there's some kind of urgent action needed based on a response. So for example, if someone says that their overall experience working at the company is either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, that could be sent directly to the manager, and they can all be automated so that there's no kind of delay or lost information there, so that the manager can review and act on that feedback quickly. And again, through Alchemer's reporting, you can start to see trends with each quarterly run of this survey, and you can also apply advanced filters to look at, for example, remote or in-person employees, or the time range that you would like to see the results for.
That's great. Can you share a little bit about the outcomes that we ultimately see?
Yeah, so some of the outcomes that we see are one, low turnover rates. So with the feedback that you get through this program, you can recommend company-wide changes that reduce employee turnover and raise employee satisfaction. Also, by addressing those factors that are driving turnover, employees are 59% more likely to stay and are happier and more productive while they work. You can also set up real-time alerts, like we mentioned and showed in the workflow, for any at-risk staff so that you can take action immediately to help prevent them from leaving. We'll also see higher employee satisfaction through this program. So by personalizing the satisfaction surveys and giving employees the opportunity to provide feedback, you and your team can recommend specific business changes that will positively impact all employees. And because you're running these once per quarter with a consistent feedback process in place, you can monitor how that overall satisfaction is impacted after those changes are implemented.